Hello, friends. If you were to look at my life today, a 76-year-old woman living alone in this apartment, what would you see? I am free. I am independent. And to be honest with you, I feel happier now than I did back when I was a CEO. Many people look at me and think, she must be so lucky. But that is not the truth. This freedom didn't just fall from the sky. Would you believe it? Just 2 years ago, I almost lost it all. My daughter, my devoted daughter, sat across from me, took my trembling hand in hers, and said, "Mom, I don't think you can live alone anymore. It is time we found somewhere safer for you." Those words, they weren't malicious, but they felt like a prison sentence. They confirmed that, Eleanor, your time is up. You are frail, you are useless, and you are becoming a burden. As we age, society seems to have prepared exactly 3 doors for us. Door number 1, moving in and clinging to your children. Door number 2, burning through your life savings to hire a stranger for home care. And door number 3, accepting the nursing home waiting to die in safety. I have stood before all 3 of those doors. I have tried opening them. And today, I am sitting here to tell you why I bravely slammed them all shut. If you, or your aging parents, are facing these difficult choices, then today's story is for you. The first door I decided to walk through was the choice everyone thinks is the most blessed: moving in with my daughter. At the time, I was naive. I thought it would be the perfect solution. I dreamed of a scene straight out of a movie: 3 generations under one roof, gathering in the evenings, laughing, feeling warm and safe. But the reality was far colder than I imagined. After just a few weeks, I realized I had become an invisible guest in my own child's home. Every dinner was the same. The whole family sat at one table, the lights were bright, the food was plentiful, but the silence was deafening. My daughter, my son-in-law, even the grandkids, everyone was glued to their phone screens. Once, I tried to break that suffocating silence. I excitedly started to say, "Hey, I saw on the news today that," but before I could finish, my daughter frowned, didn't even look up, and said, "Mom, I am answering an urgent email from my boss. Can you save it for later? I need to focus." I fell silent instantly. The food in my mouth suddenly tasted bitter. I realized, I am physically here, but I do not belong in this rhythm of life. Gradually, a feeling of being superfluous took over me. I lived in my child's house, but I tiptoed around like a thief. I was afraid my walking would make noise, afraid my coughing would wake the grandchildren, afraid of turning the TV up too loud. I felt like I was the constant cause of tension in the house. But the breaking point came one night. Walking past the kids' bedroom, I heard an argument spilling out. Standing frozen outside their door, I felt like someone was squeezing my heart. It turned out, my presence was unintentionally cracking their marriage. In that moment, I learned the most painful lesson of old age. Loving your children does not mean you have to cling to them. The next morning, I packed my bags. I chose to leave not out of anger or a lack of love, but because I wanted to give them back their freedom, and more importantly, to keep the last shred of dignity for myself. And just like that, door number 1 slammed shut behind me. After leaving my daughter's house, I went back to my old place and hiring in home care. In theory, this sounded like the perfect solution. I could still live in my beloved home, sleep in my own familiar bed, but have someone come in to handle the cooking, cleaning, and medication. I thought, wonderful, finally, I can use my money to buy my freedom. But I was dead wrong. The reality was a financial nightmare. Do you know the price of maintaining that freedom? $4,000 a month? That's right, $4,000, just to have someone come by for a few hours a day. My pension and my life savings began evaporating like boiling water. Every night, I would lie there with my hand on my forehead, staring at the ceiling and doing the math. This month I lost 4,000. Next month another 4,000. At this rate, I can only survive for another 3 years. After 3 years, when the money is gone, will I be on the streets? The fear of outliving your wallet is a terrifying thing to experience. But even worse than losing the money was the loss of control. Try to imagine this: always having a stranger lurking in your kitchen, touching your things, opening your refrigerator. And the problem with these services is that the staff changes constantly. One week it is Mary, the next week it is Jane, the week after that, it is some college student named Sarah. I was exhausted by that cycle. Every time a new person arrived, I had to explain the smallest details all over again. The soup spoon goes in this drawer. No, I cannot eat onions. Please do not put them in the soup. Do not rearrange my medicine cabinet. I realized a bitter truth. Money can buy service, but it can never buy understanding. They work for a paycheck. They don't care how I feel. In my own home, I suddenly became a difficult customer being served on an assembly line. After 6 months of enduring the money burning and the loss of privacy, I called the agency and canceled the contract. I would rather cook a simple bowl of egg noodles for myself than eat a gourmet meal filled with anxiety. And so, door number 2 slammed shut. I fell into true despair. My daughter took me to tour a facility that was marketed as 5-star luxury. I have to admit, the first impression was impressive. Polished floors, cool air, the scent of light, essential oils, and nurses in crisp white uniforms always smiling. It looked more like a resort than a hospital, but that glitzy feeling vanished instantly when I looked into the eyes of the residents living there. I saw a terrifying emptiness. I saw elderly men and women sitting in wheelchairs, lined up along the hallway. They weren't talking to each other. They were all staring blankly out the window, sitting motionless for hours. What were they doing? They were waiting, waiting for a loved one, waiting for a phone call, things that become rarer and rarer as the years go by. And their lives were programmed like kindergartners. Everything was orderly, everything was regulated, but it was completely devoid of the pulse of a free life. When the center director handed me the application form, he said, "Eleanor, rest assured, here you will be absolutely safe. We have cameras and nurses on duty 24/7." That word safe woke me up. I realized they are selling safety, but what I crave is life. I turned to my daughter and said something that I am still proud of to this day. I would rather risk falling and breaking my leg while reaching to cut a rose in my own garden than live in absolute safety, without a single scratch, slowly withering away within these 4 white walls until the end. I sold the big house, moved to this small neighborhood, and started living alone. And right here, I found the 4th door, the secret door very few people tell you about. It all started on a pouring rainy afternoon. I saw Sarah, my young neighbor, a single mom, crying on her porch because her car had broken down, and she was late to pick up her son from school. In that moment, instead of locking my door to avoid trouble, I grabbed an umbrella, stepped out, and said, "Sarah, give me your house keys. I will watch the house. You take a taxi and go get the boy immediately." That moment changed everything. From that day on, an unspoken contract was signed between me and her family. I became a second grandmother to the kids. I help watch the house when she works late. I cook warm stews. And most importantly, I sit and listen to her vent about the pressures of life. I realized we old folks might be physically weaker, but we possess a massive asset that young people are desperately lacking: time and life experience. And in return, what do I get? I don't need to hire a housekeeper anymore. On weekends, her ex-husband comes over to fix my light bulbs and leaky faucets. She drives me to the supermarket for heavy items. The kids teach me how to video call and use Facebook so I don't get left behind. You see, in this relationship, no money changes hands. We pay each other in human kindness. My dear friends, there is a terrible misconception that when we retire, we become useless. Not at all. Aging does not strip you of your value. It simply changes the type of value you have to offer. If youth has physical strength, we have patience, time, and wisdom. Those are incredibly precious commodities. So, do not sit still and wait for your children to arrange your life for you. Do not wait until you are pushed into a nursing home, sitting in a wheelchair, to start looking for friends. By then, it is too late. Take charge of your destiny today. Step outside, knock on your neighbor's door, bake an apple pie, and bring it over. Don't wait for society to hand out pity. Go out and build your own village. People always talk about missing their youth, but trust me, the best years are not behind you. They are right here, right now. Thank you for patiently listening to this old lady's long story. I wish you a free and radiant life. Goodbye.